Perfect. Uh, the camera would fall as soon as it start. That just adds to it. Welcome in to the Ho Up Show. I'm your host, Joseph Griffin. I hope you're all doing well. As you can see, we're not doing well here, but we are making it on this fine Friday evening where we are here for the Final Thoughts episode. If you've been with us for the film breakdowns this weekend, you've kind of already seen what needs to be done there. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, I'm doing this live. I don't know how it's going to work. As you can already tell, the camera has decided to go lopsided on me, and one of my lights has already decided to go out. So production is at an all-time low right now. However, we battle through it, and that's what we're going to do. If you're here for the first time, I want you in and out in 15 minutes, if that. I value your time, and I don't want you here long. What you're going to get from me in that 15 minutes is we're going to hit X Factors real quick. I've got 3 of them. Then we're going to hit 3 Carolina wins if section, and then I'm going to give you my final prediction. And without further ado, let's jump straight into it. First and foremost, X Factors. What's good, SEC football team? Nice to see you. But my first X Factor is kind of bland. Not a hot take whatsoever, but it's LaNorris Sellers. Need LaNorris Sellers to come out and be what he was in the second half, which was very efficient, not only through the air, but making the correct reads. He had a couple of different miscues, if you will, when it comes with the blitzes, but again, without fully knowing whose job it is to identify the pressures, I'm not going to fully put it on him, but I want to see LaNorris Sellers play like he did in the second half. I texted a buddy and didn't go to social media about this because I tend to keep these things to myself. And if it works, great. If it not, oh well. I think this secretly is a coming out party for Sellers. I'm not ready to say that yet because I don't know what the weather is going to uphold tomorrow, but I have a screenshot of a text that I sent that might be going live tomorrow after the game. We don't know. We'll see. But Sellers is the first X factor. The first X factor. The second X factor for me, interior defensive line. And that's not just limited to Sanders or Tonka or anybody like that. It's quite frankly the whole entire interior of that D line with Tonka, with Goodwine, and I'm drawing a break, Jules, all of them. I think you need to see every single one of those guys get after it because these are 2 very talented tackles for LSU. And we know what Dylan Stewart is. We know what Cal Kennard is. And I think that's going to be an awesome battle to watch, especially on film for me, come Sunday when we get to watch those 4 go back and forth. However, I think this game is made in that interior defensive line for South Carolina. They've shown great, by the way. This isn't like me saying that they haven't shown up yet. Will they finally? No. They've been here. They've been performing extremely well. But if they can get the interior pressure in the passing game and be stout on the run game as well, which, by the way, not a very good running LSU team, or at least they weren't last weekend against Nichols. I think for me, that is got to be your second X factor is that group of guys with LaNorris Sellers. And my third X factor, Mazeo Bennett. I battle really, really hard with Mazeo Bennett in a tight end room because I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot not saying this because I think your tight ends are going to eat this past weekend because the film suggests it. But because I still don't know how to get out of my own way, we're going Mazeo because I think you need a receiver to step up. And whether that's Mazeo, whether that's Jared, Gage possibly coming back, you need a receiver to play big tomorrow. I genuinely think you do. Now, that might not be limited to just Mazeo Bennett, but I think Mazeo Bennett's going to play a huge role in this game along with the tight ends. But those are my X factors. Those are not hot take X factors, by the way. That's something everybody probably knows, whether you watch the film with us or not. Now to the Carolina wins if part of this show. And I don't want to get too carried away with this is a lock for South Carolina because in no stretch of the imagination do I think it's a lock. And that's not any indication of what my score prediction is going to be. with the weather, regardless of what it is, Carolina wins if they make LSU one-dimensional. I know LSU is a very good passing offense. Top 15, I believe it was, within the first 2 games. Granted, it's 2 games. Still, one of the topping passing offenses. If you can make them one-dimensional and just throw around and just stuff their run, I think that helps you win. Even though that's what LSU does best. If you looked at a stat, or more of a note, if anything, that we put out about LSU's offense, they either went 3 and out, like I believe it was close to 45% of the time, or they went on 7, 8, 9, 10 play drives and scored. So if you can force LSU into 3 and outs and limit their run and make them one-dimensional, Carolina wins that football game, in my opinion. The second what if, South Carolina rushes for over 150 yards. I think they need to establish the run game, because you are what you are in the passing game right now until you get that momentum and you get that receiver that can be leaned upon, which I think you have them. And I think more so it's with Lenore Sellers getting comfortable in his own skin. What I mean by that is getting comfortable with the pocket and letting the game slow down. I think the game slowed down for him in that second half against Kentucky. Will it carry over? To be determined. But I think you need to run the ball for over 150. How that comes, I don't know. I don't know if that's 100 for Rocket and 50 for Sand, or 50 for Sellers. I don't know. I just think you have to run for over 150 yards. If you do that, you make LSU one-dimensional. And my last one, you win the turnover battle. I think there's going to be turnovers in this game as well. Again, regardless of weather. Win the turnover battle. And I'm even predicting, hot take, if you will, South Carolina gets a special teams touchdown tomorrow. Might seem a little hot. We'll see. But I think South Carolina might get a special teams touchdown tomorrow. But you do have to win the turnover battle. I know that has nothing to do with what my 3 what-ifs or wins. But I think that's what you have to see. Now, when it comes to my final score prediction, I've gone back and forth with this. There's 2 scores I've predicted. And essentially, I had to talk myself into this. And I say talk myself into this. I put out a tweet earlier last week, Sunday, Monday, or earlier this week, either Sunday or Monday, I can't remember. But I put out a tweet where it essentially said, you either have to believe that your team is good and know that they are good and just believe it, and that these are the games you win now, or you don't. So I've watched the film last week. The film told us this was a winnable game for Kentucky or against Kentucky. Didn't talk myself into it. The film is telling you this is a very winnable game for South Carolina as well. And I think Williams-Brice Stadium is going to make it difficult for this LSU team as well. But the score prediction I finally settled on was 20-17, South Carolina. I think this is a game that gets South Carolina over the hump. I think this is a game that if you run for 150, if you make LSU a one-dimensional offense, and you win that turnover battle with that little hot take, South Carolina's going to get a special teams touchdown tomorrow. I like South Carolina's chances. And the good news about this is because I feel like you can trust your defense as a South Carolina fan. You don't have to win a blowout or a high-scoring game, in my opinion, I don't think. I don't think this is going to be something that LSU just goes and scores 24 to 30-something points. I think this is a game where your defense can hold them underneath at least 24 max, maybe. I feel comfortable in saying that. But I really do think at the end of the day, this is a game that South Carolina finally gets over that little hump. The film shows they can. Everything is pointing to them being able to, with all the injuries LSU has, with it being a home game at noon, Williams-Brice Stadium being, quite frankly, one of the better home environments in the SEC and probably in the nation. I think a lot of people don't give it enough credit until you visit it. But even then, there are people that are out there saying just how good of an atmosphere Williams-Brice Stadium is. And this is the LSU's quarterback, and I'm drawing a blank. It's like Nutmeyer or something. I can't remember. Apologize for that. This is going to be his first SEC road start. Williams-Brice Stadium is no stadium to just walk into and think you're playing at Vanderbilt. No offense, Vanderbilt. They got a random stray and Nutmeyer, that thing, whatever it is. I don't know his name, but nonetheless, it is what it is. But I do think it's going to be rough for him to come in and play because quite literally, again, I said this last year, the very first game that I went to as a media member, I remember looking over to Andrew and saying, am I losing my mind or are we shaking right now? Like quite literally, I could feel myself sway. And I didn't believe the whole the saying that y'all have, you ain't playing if you ain't swaying or whatever it is. But seriously, that's how loud it gets in there. And just how active they get. So with all that said, I have a 20-17 win, but I very easily could see a Kentucky kind of outcome as well, where they kind of just pull away in the third and fourth quarter, primarily with Sellers and Rocket Sanders through the run game. Now that you can't have success passing the ball, I even probably going to shoot myself in the foot for admitting this too, but the text I sent out to a buddy on Tuesday, after watching LSU defense, I put, this is Sellers' game to throw for 220 and rush for 80 yards and go for 3 touchdowns. We'll see how that looks. But this LSU defense, while they have talented players, there are holes to be had. Not only in the run game, by the way, but the middle of the field is left open. And I think that's where the tight ends come to play. And I do think I'm going to shoot myself in the foot once again for not going with that and my X factor being Mazio. Not that Mazio couldn't be a good X factor. I just really think your tight ends can eat tomorrow, and they probably will eat. But that's where we're at now. That's what you see. We're running up on that 15-minute mark. Like I said, I want y'all in and out of 15 minutes. 2017 final score prediction for me for South Carolina. I do believe you are going to see Pat McAfee hopefully pick the Gamecocks again tomorrow. But nonetheless, I hope to see some of y'all at game day. If not, until next time, we'll see you there. See you next time.